thank you both for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
We're very excited about your talk.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited for the potential for this.
Tell me a little bit about how you came up with this, where you see this going. We've seen it kind of in action, but we kind of want to know a little bit more from you.
Well, I'm sure you know all these metrics as well, but I mean, we are the safest form of airspace travel.
Only forms
Only form, but even like, I should say safest in terms of even like compared to the commercial aviation industry, right? And we actually have a proven method that works, and even our product, this RLV vehicle, it's already built, the prototype's already like been working, so.
You've had a few test flights, right?
We have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we've had 15 successful tours
Okay.
of space to date.
This is awesome.
Yep. We've experienced in generating ticket revenue, so
Mhm.
pretty
Mhm.
exciting.
From your clients, I expect it's a lot of revenue.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, absolutely.
So what's your vision? Where do you see this going?
We would like to expand and create more of these RLVs
Okay.
so that we could do more space flights
Mhm.
and be able to have that be a regular occurrence.
And I think a big thing for us is, if we're able to find a partner in terms of the funding side of it, that's in it for the long term, I think that's just going to be huge for us.
Okay. So, we're definitely on the same page. Partnership is really what we're looking for. So a partner on the funding side of things, what specifically do you want this partner to do, and what specifically do you actually need the money for?
We want to buy 6 more or create 6 more of these RLVs so that we can expand and have regular flights
Mhm.
happening on a regular basis.
Okay.
So we're looking for that $100 million of funding
Okay.
to build that small fleet of 6 reusable launch vehicles.
So in total, what you're really proposing is you want the funding to build more of these units, to take more people into space, build out the market.
Right.
Okay. No, please.
Oh, well, I was going to ask even just right back at you,
Mhm.
what are you looking for out of this partnership?
We really are looking for a partnership.
Mhm.
We obviously have the money. We have the funding. We want to be able to partner with you and really share the vision.
Mhm.
So for us, it's not as much as it is about the funding. It's really creating this long-lasting partnership where we can really drive a brand new market.
And I think that's awesome, and just, listening to your words about sharing the vision, can you unpack that a little bit? What do you mean by sharing the vision?
I can double click on that.
Yeah.
I think, so for us, what we really see is a long-term partnership. Normally how these things go is this really ends in 2 ways. Is we build a successful company, and normally we either take it public or we end up having a long-lasting partnership that involves both of us. So either
Oh, sorry, I was going to say continue. I'm just
Of course.
going to make sure.
we can buy out and then take it public, sell the company. If there's another larger firm, for example, SpaceX, that wants to buy something like this and they want to integrate it into their portfolio, but we really want to share that vision with you. So where do you see, what's your end state? Kind of where's your end game kind of on this? And I know it's really difficult for founders, for builders to really realize that piece.
Yeah.
So you've built this is sort of your baby.
Mhm.
And we can always discuss the end vision later. There's nothing set in stone.
Mhm.
So right now, what I really want to do is negotiate how do we make this partnership happen and how do we move forward.
Good. We don't really see ourselves as serial entrepreneurs.
No.
We're in this for the long haul. We
Mhm.
want to continue to innovate. We've got a team of 35 people that are really strong in this area, and we want to just continue to grow. And we enjoy innovating. We enjoy creating the best.
And I want to go off saying that your experience in this field, the experience of the founders, the experience of your team is unquestioned here. We know that you're the experts. What we really are discussing here are the terms of how can we help each other. Great. So I'm assuming, because you came here and now have twice mentioned the $100 million, that you have a valuation in mind.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we figured that the post-investment valuation would be between like 250 and 300 million dollars, but that we would we think this is a really great deal because we think Aerovent could earn multiple of like 10 times return on investment in 5 years.
Sure. that is an incredibly ambitious return. And we completely understand that because you love the product, and so do we. Our valuation is not quite as high, and because of that, that will sort of drive how much equity we would like to have within the company.
Mm-hmm.
So our valuation is right around 150 to 200. That is sort of where we sit.
Because we even were in our research and just pulling apart parts of the industry. I mean, these are the least aggressive numbers we're
Sure.
actually giving, and we were trying to, find that balance there. So for us, the 250 to 300 really was conservative valuation for us.
Have you shopped this anywhere else?
We've been talking to people, yes, but I mean, really passively. We are pretty interested in you guys.
Absolutely. We're very interested in you as well. I mean, this is something we've got the expertise of taking companies like yours to the top. This is sort of what we do. We don't see ourselves as just an investor in this. We have connections in the industry. We have partners. We have other arms that we can help actually build up your company, build up the expertise.
It's kind of surprising that with the post valuation, you're thinking it's still going to be like 150.
Not
You're investing 100.
No, not 150. What we're
Okay,
seeing,
so
it's between 150 and 200. So we're hoping it's going to be for the higher side. We really want this to be a valuable firm for the both of us because the more valuable the firm, the more money we make.
Mm-hmm.
So we're absolutely on the same page where we want this, especially after these new vehicles are built, we want this to be as valuable as possible.
Good.
So as far as an equity percentage goes, within that valuation, even within the valuation that you're saying, for $100 million, we would want to go probably at least at the 60% valuation. And this is obviously negotiable. That's where we are.
No, and I'm glad that we have a starting point at least now. And I think, when we were talking before about this, because we did talk about this before, we, in our estimates, especially with 250 to 300 million, we're looking at 25 to 30%.
So that's a 25 to 30 would mean that even though we're fronting the majority of the money for you to be able to expand your company, we would not have the control over the decisions made. We would only own a quarter. For $100 million, that would mean that you're looking for a $400 million valuation at 25%.
Well, and part of this too, because we know you have expertise in this too. And that's why we are really looking at you guys for this. And I think, us just being the founders of this, we left our job for this, right? We're very passionate about this for the rest of our lives. This is our long-term, our company, and I guess giving up control of that in that egregious of a way where we're talking, upwards of 60%. I definitely don't see it being beyond 50% for us.
And I'm just saying 60% is just the capital control. We're not taking over control of the tech. We're not taking control of any of the managerial functions for now. We're really looking at just how much of the company we would end up owning based on how much money we're investing in it. For us, that piece in and of itself is just financial. And obviously we can come back to that.
Yeah.
So there's other things that we can discuss on the table.
Let's do that.
For one of the things that we were looking at, and my partners and I were discussing, is the fact that what happens if this goes the way we all planned. So the way we all planned, where do you see yourselves in this company? Because you've built this company from the ground up. We want you to stay.
Oh, we still see ourselves as CEO right there in the boardroom making decisions. I mean, we don't see our role really changing over the course of the next few years.
To us, where we see this is what happens in these companies, what happens in these situations is that you've built this company to this level. And you've built it based on the expertise and the technology that you have. Once this company grows, you will no longer be able to touch the tech. You, as a CEO of a major firm, if this goes the way we want, you will not be able to touch the technology at all. So this thing that you've built, you would have to give up complete control of that.
What is the reason for that? Are you just basing this off of previous projects?
Yeah.
Or?
So previous projects, what happens is the CEO doesn't build. The CEO is the CEO of the company. You're looking at the vision, you're building out the spaces, you're making connections in the market. You're not really a builder anymore. So one of the things that where we see you, and this is years down the line, as a chief technology officer, we see you as guiding the technology and the vision of this company that way, versus managing the day-to-day expenses. Because the CEO you're managing P&L. A CEO manages profit and loss.
And I think
You are an accountant.
it
at
makes
that point.
sense how historically it has been that way for most CEOs of, smaller startups. For us though, I know we have that business acumen though, where I wouldn't see that as we're unique in this
No.
field.
You definitely have the business acumen. It's what do you want to do?
Mhm.
It's like, do you want to spend your days on P&L, working with accountants, or managing expense?
I mean, I
Or
think
do you want to
it's,
build exciting products?
it's hard to say if we're talking, 10, 20, 15 years or whatever it is out in the
We're
future.
talking more short term because your projections are fairly aggressive. I mean, if you're looking at the valuation going up to 300 million, I mean, that's a very aggressive valuation based on what you have right now, which means that we have a few years to really bring into that space.
Mhm.
And within that time frame, it's, do we want to bring in someone who is experienced in taking companies like yours to the next level? Because although your experience in tech is unquestioned,
Mhm.
your experience managing a large enterprise is untested and unproven. And that puts our investment in jeopardy.
I just feel like we can't make that decision now.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would say even, short term, I would see it as we, if we have to talk about, benchmarking and seeing how assessing us as a CEO for the first year, second year, third year, I can understand that path, and we can certainly talk about that then. But I think short term, I wouldn't see us giving up that role
It's not
in
really
the
the,
future.
and it's not really the term itself. It's really where the company goes. It's if the company takes off and we go through moderate to aggressive projections.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that there's somebody experienced to guide us through that growth. I don't want to have a situation where we're going through growing pains simply because we don't have anyone on our team. I certainly can't do it, but we don't have anyone on our team who has had experience going through those growing pains already that can take us through that with minimal impact. So our proposal is that we do want to put, given the projections of this firm, we do want to put a condition into the contract saying that once we get to a specific level, we can talk about shopping for a professional CEO, someone who does nothing but lead firms. They don't have any experience in building. They are just professional CEOs. Obviously, you'll be able to pick whoever that is. It'll be a long process. Our VCs, we will bring people to you. The board will have to approve all of that, but we want somebody to come in who can manage the business part of it rather than focusing on the next thing that we don't know that's coming down the pike.
And
There's a lot of failed CEOs out there.
There's more failed ventures
Yeah, well,
because they didn't have the leadership at the top.
that could be true, but this is a whole new industry too. So we don't want to give up on this. We don't want to assume that some other CEO is going to know how to run this business better than we do when we're already further ahead than anyone else on this. So we don't want to turn that over completely. So we can talk about the future, but
And this is all based on your projection. This is a brand new industry,
Mhm.
which means that there is even more need than before to have somebody who knows how to run emerging enterprises. And this will be somebody who knows how to run an emerging enterprise. That's what we want. We want somebody who understands that this is a brand new industry and who has grown.
well, and I hate to bring up, real world examples here from more blue ocean kind of people, but okay, let's think of Mark Zuckerberg for example. He was entering a space that wasn't quite there before, if you're going to count MySpace, not so much. And today he is still the CEO of this business. He was a college student before.
Exactly.
And so,
And
not
he
to compare
hasn't-
us to that, but he's still running the business.
And he hasn't written a line of code in years.
But he is the CEO right now. I'm not saying I'm just saying that I don't think we can have that conversation of the role of CEO now until we actually see how it plays out in the years to come.
Right. And the role of CEO is based on projection. It's based on where do we see ourselves in 5 years.
Mhm.
How aggressive do we see ourselves? If you really want that aggressive turn, if you really want us to aggressively pursue this market, then we will have to have somebody in that profession.
And I'm pretty confident though that even when we reach that point, because we do see this as a high growing company, I feel confident that we could do that.
Where's your value in that position? Would you jeopardize the deal to remain CEO rather than be in a C-suite position running the tech? Where do you see it? Are there things that we can negotiate?
in the short term. Yeah,
In the
I
short
don't
term, for
think-
sure.
In the short term, I don't think we're not interested in turning the company over
I
to
mean,
somebody else at this
correct.
If we go for a longer term and a moderate projection, if we're looking at even hitting a quarter or half of our benchmarks that we want to hit, where do you see us bringing in a professional executive?
Well, actually, in that line of thinking, if as co-CEOs, if we're going to be compared to the benchmarks, let's say that we gave out at that initial pitch meeting, I would feel more comfortable with the conservative ones. But if we would have to be benchmarked against that to assess our success as a CEO, and if it continues, we're meeting that, and I would say, why not? If we're meeting that, we might as well still be in that role. If that's what we truly want to do too.
We also have to remember that because this is a brand new and untested industry, we need somebody who's able to mitigate any sort of impact that can come from failure. Even though the risk is small, we need somebody who knows how to mitigate damage for both of us. It's our investment and it's your company.
Right.
It's our company at the end of the day.
So let's talk a little bit about the board members and appointed board members.
Okay.
And is that
course.
another way then that we could talk about how to get that kind of level of knowledge in the company?
Sure.
What are you thinking about for appointed board members?
So our board seats will depend on the equity that we have in the firm. We would obviously want somebody from the VC to run the firm, to be on the board. We'd want somebody from your side on the board, and we'd ideally need a tiebreaker on the board. So what ends up sometimes happening is if we do bring in an external CEO, someone whose interests are not personal in this, you are very personal here. This is your baby that's been built. That ends up being the tiebreaker. So we want to if we do end up, if our VC firm only gets one board seat, we will put in a condition that the third board seat will have to be somebody neutral.
And we currently do have the 3 board members right now. And I don't foresee us eliminating anyone on there. So then we would grow the board, it seems like, by another 2 people, is what you're saying?
So growing the board would depend on, again, where that decision-making piece comes from. The people that are on the board right now that you have they are on the board today, and they are on the board of a company that is the size that it is today. We, again, would want board members who have experience being on boards of larger firms. Remember, this is your only advisory body. CEOs don't get to go to people and ask questions. The only people you can talk to is the board.
Your board, yeah.
And then you also want the board to be able to advise you specifically on your business needs. A professional CEO would have less questions. They've been through this before. If you're staying a CEO in the short term even, then every single bump in the road would have to be approved by the board.
And we do, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Well, and the 2 people on there, they're aerospace executives. I mean, we do trust them. They've been part of large companies. So, I would still love for them to be on the board. And then in addition, we would love to get more representation from you guys too then. So for, a board of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people maybe.
Where do you see a board of 5?
I wouldn't like it any bigger than that.
I think if we were going to do a board of 5, I would probably say that, again, we would want 2 board seats for our team, 2 board seats with you, and a deal breaker, and a tiebreaker, somebody who is completely neutral to both sides. Because right now, again, what ends up happening is we want to protect our investment. So whoever's going to be on our board is going to be thinking of the investment. Whoever's going to be on your side of the board is they have a more personal connection to this than anything else.
Well, the previous board members, the other 2, are investors as well, based on investors as well. So I'm not sure that they are.
How much did they invest? If it was less than $100 million, then we have to talk.
Yeah, and it's less than $100 million.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm thinking, it goes back to what you were saying about how much equity you have in the company. So if it is going to be, we haven't decided yet, but the 25 to 30, maybe the 33% range, then I think, having 1 or maybe 2 more board members from your side, along with the 3 of us, I think that would be representative then.
I think it would be, I would probably have to stand on 2 and 2, because then we would have equal representation on the board, and we would have somebody completely neutral with a deal breaker. Because any time we have a board with an overly too many people from your end, too many people from our end, we don't make decisions, and that damages everything. What I'm thinking of, my only thought process on the CEO piece and on the board piece is we want streamlined ability to make decisions quickly, and they have to be the right decisions.
I appreciate what you're saying. I'm getting the feeling though that you're really just interested in the tech. You're not really interested in us.
You are the tech to us.
Well,
You
I think
built
we're a lot more than the tech.
Mhm.
And so if we're, it's like, our opinions are not really all that valued as CEO and not really all that valued as board members.
Mhm.
So I'm not really getting the feeling for like a long-term partnership. It's more like you just want to buy the tech.
We would have bought the tech if we wanted to buy the tech. We are really looking for the partnership because nobody knows this market better than you. What we're trying to figure out is where do we land? How do we walk away from this so that everybody's happy? And not
Yeah.
everybody's happy, but we actually have a partnership that works. Because we can walk away from this, I can give you everything you want, and the company crashes and burns. Because we did not allow for proper vetting, that we make sure that this company is a success at the level that you want it to be at. It's a success now.
Mm-hmm.
You're launching flights, everybody's happy, you've got some rich people who really want to go to space, and we're great. If you really want this to be a mainstream company, it is not anything close to what it is today. So we want to know, what we want to understand is, what does this company look like in the future? Same thing I asked you in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What does this company look like in the future? And how do we manage it properly? So that we don't manage it like a small firm, and we don't manage it like it's not a tech firm. We can't manage it by ourselves because we're an investment house. You can't manage it because you understand the technology and the size of the firm that it is today. So we need somebody who can professionally manage everything, the entire house, the house that we're building. So with that said,
Okay.
where, and this is probably a more personal question that we've discussed so far, vesting schedule of your shares.
Mm-hmm.
What is your vesting schedule that you have in your mind?
For us.
Yeah, for yourselves.
You know, I'm gonna be honest, we were just, this is our company, we just didn't even see that being an issue just because, I mean, we've got our jobs, we're at this company,
Yeah.
we're like not looking to get out of this or anything because
can
they're
either talk-
baby.
Yeah, you can talk to me about it or HR, but there
Yeah.
has to be a vesting schedule put in place.
Well, what were you thinking?
Last job I had to negotiate my vesting schedule.
Okay.
That was part of the comp package that I negotiated.
Mhm.
Was I came onto a startup, and they weren't able to pay me what I wanted, and they gave me a shit ton of shares.
Mhm.
So I had to negotiate a vesting schedule based on when will my shares vest based on how much value I see in the company and when I want to stay.
Mhm.
So thinking of yourselves as founders, you want the freedom to be able to do what you want, meaning that at any point past the vesting date, you can stay on as long as you want. You can run this, you can be CTO, you can do whatever you want in this company, or you can leave. But there has to be an order there.
Mhm.
So at which point would you think that you'll be comfortable? And what is your vesting schedule that you're looking at?
Well, because we, you know, had in mind that we wouldn't leave, I mean, we want ideally to stay CEO and stay in the company and all that. I guess the better question would be for you then. What did you have in mind? Just because we didn't even think of that.
Yeah, we're thinking no vesting schedule.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a vesting schedule because you've got ownership in the firm. So at one point, what this actually ends up what this means is that at which point can you sell your shares? You have shares in the company just like everybody else with the ownership.
Mm-hmm.
We want this to be a long-term partnership, meaning we want your vesting schedule as long as possible. That could be, my plans could be different from your plans.
Because just thinking about it on the spot, since we were planning on, you know, always being with the company, but just to have a policy in place, just to put it in there for the sake of that only, I suppose we could do a year.
Mm-hmm.
A year has got to be, so vesting schedules are normally longer term. So it depends on how long you want to be with the firm.
Mm-hmm.
There could be 5-year vesting. My partnership with the firm was 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 4-year vesting schedule with the company that I went to.
We don't, the length of time that we're going to be with the firm does not have to match the vesting schedule.
No.
You can be-
It usually does.
Right.
It
We don't
usually
really
depends
have
on how long do you really see yourself being in the role that you're at, and how long until, because you are builders,
Mhm.
and this is meant with all proper respect, how long until the next really exciting thing comes along and you kind of lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not serial entrepreneurs, but you are
Not at all.
inventors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And inventors like
Well,
to invent.
I would say, inventors of this product that we want to see this whole thing through. So really,
For now.
you know, well, and I will say, going
It's like
back to,
shiny penny.
this is the reason we have this passion for it. We do want to stay CEO. We do want to continue having the decision-making responsibilities.
Of
And for that reason, you know, I don't see a vesting schedule being necessary, but for the sake of this policy, I guess we'd be willing to go most up to 2 years, but I really don't see it going beyond that just because we're in it for the long haul.
We see a 5-year vesting schedule for you.
You know, I don't think we'd be able to
Depends
do
on-
5.
Depends on the projection.
It-
Depending on the projection of what we're doing, I can
Mhm.
see a 5-year vesting schedule based on just how long is it going to take this company to get up and running. we have it's a long-term projection. Is we even building the vehicles? That's how long it's going to take. And taking them up basically through the level that we want. We will not be able to do anything less than 5.
And then I guess I'm again questioning you're just buying our existing tech, or are you really investing in our company, our vision, where we are going, our ability to innovate in the future? Or would you want us to say, okay, we're done, you got this, but now our next great invention that's just as good as this, you're not really interested in that, you need to go shop that with somebody else because it seems like you're kind of tying our hands.
Vesting schedules for you.
Yes,
that's how
zero vesting schedule is what we had in mind. We were looking at like 2 years,
so
maybe
so
5 years.
So that means that at the 2 years, after we've invested $100 million, you want to be able to leave.
I would, again, for the sake of the policy, but we don't plan on leaving.
Right. So if you don't plan on leaving, then the vesting schedule at that point could be at 4 years, or 5 years, or 10 years.
I guess we
want to give you the freedom to be able to build this firm, and then once it's built, have the freedom to do what you would like. That's it. We're here. Like, we're not going anywhere. We've invested this money. We've invested in you. We're invested in this company. And it's not just the two of you, by the way. We're investing in the whole firm. We're not. This isn't personal between the founders and myself. You have an entire company that we want to be invested in. Every employee. So when you're thinking about the decisions that are going to be made, when you're thinking about who can run this company best, you have to think about that. This is now your responsibility. They are your responsibility.
And they have been.
Yeah.
And
hopefully they will be.
Right? And we have been building it, and it has been going well.
And they will be. They will be your
Do we
responsibility.
want to continue doing that?
Yes, I want to continue doing that.
So
I suppose what opposition would your team have to the 1, maybe 2 years?
we've seen this before. What ends up happening is $100 million. We're investing in you for $100 million. That means with a 2-year vesting schedule, we invest $100 million, and in 700 days you can leave. 700 days from today, you can leave.
Assuming, but we would not.
But again, we understand that. But we would not is we can hear that all day. We trust you. We trust your technology. But this is something where our investment has to be protected at all costs.
I think it's the disconnect in my mind between this, we're really not that interested in you continuing on as CEO, and we're really not continuing or interested in letting you make a whole lot of decisions on the board necessarily or whatever.
That's all the decisions.
Half and half, but
Right.
it's
We're the deal breaker.
with a deal breaker.
Of course.
But then you're interested in us staying long term.
We are.
So I don't.
We're
I guess
we're
it
not-
just doesn't really.
We're not interested in
Yeah.
you leaving short term.
Okay.
Let's rephrase it that way.
Yeah.
We are not interested in you taking your money and running.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you won't.
Right.
But this is the contract now. This is $100 million.
Right.
$100 million does not hang on our trust in you. We can go grab drinks after this, all of that, but this needs to be right.
And I guess
Right.
we just, culturally, maybe we're operating a little differently because we've started this company based on trust, and it's worked pretty well to this point too.
Mhm.
But the opposition we're feeling is more just this sense of we're losing control of something that we fully built. Where it's why even have this policy? And I'm understanding from your past experiences you need it, but I feel like that we're losing control, and we would appreciate at least a 1 or 2 year vesting schedule from that.
We cannot do that. We've been burned like that before.
What is the shortest duration you could do?
The shortest I could possibly do is 5 years. That is it.
You couldn't do a 3 year at all.
I could not do it for you. 5 years is a typical vesting schedule in this town. It is what gets us from where the company is today with $100 million to where you want it to be.
I think we're gonna have to keep going then. On
Yeah,
that, 'cause we're not
Let's see
really
what other
landing
areas
on
we could
that.
talk about
So,
then.
Okay. Please.
I mean, okay, well, let's see what else we can talk about. How would you want, what form of equity are you thinking of? Because we were thinking, common stock.
Common stock, all of your investors have.
And we're just thinking for the sake of consistency, and of course we do truly value you guys and see your VC firm is very important.
Yep.
But just to be consistent and fair to all our other investors, I think we would have to do common stock.
Redeemables where we're shooting for, but again, all of these things are negotiable. Everything we've discussed so far is negotiable.
Redeemable is a non-starter for us, for the same reasons that you were talking about. For us walking away, you can walk away.
Yeah.
And not redeemable, so it's like, no.
We both have the freedom to walk away from this deal whenever we want. Remember that. I want you to be comfortable with this deal.
Right.
So convertible preferred stock is perfectly fine with us. If redeemable is a non-starter, convertible preferred is perfectly fine. Why don't we stick with that, and then we can move on to something else.
We could work with that,
Right.
yeah. Well, how about dividends then? I mean, obviously we're a young company, we really can't actually pay those out right now.
Yep.
What other forms could we do that in? Because we're thinking common stock for that.
Dividends, we were actually, when we're looking at percentage of dividends for the payout, we're completely negotiable on that. We're investing in you completely.
Okay.
We're getting equity in the company. Dividends are something that are, for us to be completely honest, we would want probably about 10% dividend, which is sort of typical. But when we look at a dividend percentage, because we because we have ownership in the firm, that's something that we're most negotiable on.
Okay.
Because I mean, if you think about it, we're being paid out in the success of the company. So the dividend for us is a nice to have.
Yeah.
We would love it. We would want to have a dividend, but that's one of those things that's incredibly negotiable for us.
Right, because we're in a growth phase right now, so
Yeah.
like no dividends probably would be a good place to start off with.
If we went for no dividends, then there are other things that would be on the table. Because dividend is typical.
In the growth stages,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, it's like
Absolutely.
a share company,
Because-
it's definitely been in a growth.
Because we're investing liquid capital right now,
Right.
which means that capital is then tied up in your firm for as long as until we can start making some of that money back, and we have our own expenses, we have our own employees to pay. So we can't just have investment tied up in a venture without actually seeing liquid cash back. So we would need to have some of that, but again, we can negotiate that piece. Liquidity is one of those things where as we invest money in it, having no money back kind of doesn't make any sense.
Initially, at least,
course.
but down the line.
Down the line,
It's-
absolutely.
Yeah, it's not uncommon though for in the early years in a firm to not be paid dividends.
No.
That's
It's not necessarily uncommon, but normally I would think that probably where we would end up going is if we went for no dividends, and we can kind of go to, we would want additional points in the firm. So we can take points in the firm in exchange for no dividend. That doesn't bother me at all. So I think if that's something that we want to talk about, then we can put dividends completely on the table for us. Those are on the table. We would like to. Those will be converted into another option on the deal though.
like what?
For example, so we've already gone through quite a few things on this list. The one thing, and it's actually really funny that you brought up Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened with Mark Zuckerberg's initial investors? Especially one of them.
Fill me in.
What ended up happening with Mark Zuckerberg is that him and his board, once the company became successful, ended up issuing additional shares in order to get more investors. Larger pool of shares, more investors can come in. One of the initial investors in the firm's shares were diluted down to almost nothing. I mean, that dilution now is like millions of dollars, but like it was diluted down to almost nothing. We don't want that to happen to us. So if we're going to be doing no dividends, and if we're going to be going for no dividends, I would probably say we would want first refusal rights on dilution. Because again,
So no dividends. We would say no dividends, and you would do the right of first refusal.
Yeah.
I think we
could do that.
that one we could do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so no dividends, but you get the right to first refusal.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all, to us, I think that works because we're investing in you and the company,
Yeah.
and we're also looking at we want to make sure that our shares and our whatever equity percentage we end up settling on does not dilute as we take on more investors. One additional thing that we want to talk about is that if we're now this far into the deal and we're investing $100 million, I do want to make sure that you're not currently shopping this deal with anyone else. At least until we come to a firm yes or no. If we end up sitting down from this deal and we end up settling on the fact that, this is a wonderful venture, but neither one of us this is just not going to work. We leave as friends and everything's fine, but until that is done, until the ink is basically either dry or gone, I want to make sure that you're not shopping this deal with anybody else. So I do want to add a provision in saying that until our negotiations finish, you can't shop this deal.
No shop. And then what are you thinking that you would kind of give up for that? Because there's
We're
really
giving-
no reason for us to do a no shop.
No.
Right? So.
So we're already having you not paying out any dividends.
Well, and I think
And
then
all-
we gave you the right to first
First
refusal on
refusal.
that.
Well, what are you thinking for the no shop provision?
You know, I see it as restrictive in a sense, and I just think we'd be remiss if we didn't do our part on that, and you too, if we didn't, see who is the best fit for this. We
course.
definitely are leaning toward you guys.
That's not, and that we're very happy to be able to negotiate all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, this is one of these things where this is the initial deal that we're negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things down the line that we'll be negotiating, especially as this company grows.
Mm-hmm.
So as of right now, for the initial deal, $100 million is what's on the table.
Right.
If another VC offers you more for the same equity that we're offering you, we now kind of feel like you were just using us to get the next better deal. Because you can go to the next company and say, by the way, this is what this other VC fund is giving us. So until we have a term sheet in place,
Yeah, I mean, just in our nature, we're not like sleazy car salesmen here. Like that's just very against our nature, and like you could just full trust, or we would not do that for that reason.
You'd be very surprised how $100 million changes someone's nature.
So I'm thinking that, we could consider having no provision. I'm thinking if you would only do like a CEO replacement provision if we didn't meet conservative projections for the business.
So if you didn't meet conservative projections, you'd be willing to go for a no shop provision.
I think so.
Yes, if we're being compared against the conservative projections, then yes, we will be willing to put in that provision.
Okay.
That
Should we do
works.
that?
Okay. I think that's fine. So now I think I'd want to return back to where we want to be on the board.
Oh, okay.
Board
Right,
members?
right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking, one of the only really things that we have left on the table is we have a vesting schedule for you, for the founders.
Right.
When can you take out your money?
Mm-hmm.
We have the board members. How many board members do we want from each side?
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the equity percentage that we're all sort of avoiding, but also going to talk about at the end.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it up to you. Where do you want to start?
Maybe with the board members.
Sure. Yep. The idea of adding 3
Mhm.
is just
Adding 3 board
yeah,
members to the existing 3?
to the existing 3
Okay.
is not something that we can
Mhm.
contemplate.
I'm thinking even,
Mm-hmm.
the 2 might be even our very upper limit there. We'd be comfortable. Of course, we want your expertise and we want your knowledge and that to be reflected on the board.
Mhm.
So we definitely see having another board member from your firm in there.
So having 2 total or just 1?
Well, what do you think about 1?
1 is $100 million is worth more than 1, unfortunately for us. So one of the things that we're looking at is we would probably have, again, we want to make sure that we have an equal representation on the board because, again, it is the only guidance you have.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be guidance that propels the company forward.
Mm-hmm.
There's the guidance that protects our investment. And there's the guidance that guides the tech, which is coming from you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we don't want to happen is that as you get more money to develop more technology, we don't want to get stuck in a cycle where we're developing and developing and developing, and we're not going to market.
Mm-hmm.
That's really why we want to be there, is because you will be incredibly passionate about the technology and making it the best that it can be.
Mhm.
And because people's lives are in danger, if this technology fails, it needs to be perfect.
Right.
But we can't overdevelop this to the point where we no longer have a company, we're a research house.
Well,
So if we kind of paired these up a little bit,
Mhm.
thinking about, be like 2 board members and like 4 to 5 years in the vesting of the founder's share.
Mhm.
No, 3 or so if you had 2 board members, it'd be like 3 years or less for the vesting of the founder's share, or probably be like 1 board member and 4 or 5 years of vesting in the founder's share, something like that.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah.
sound something like,
So if
which would be more important to you if we did something like that?
the founder's shares to me are that is your own personal investing.
Mm-hmm.
The board members guide the future of this firm.
Right.
Well, then
So,
maybe
to
this
me,
goes.
those two things are not they're not mutually exclusive,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also not as linked.
Well, maybe
in this
this goes back to the
Yes.
equity percentage then.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking, to have your board members and what that board looks like, it kind of is contingent on what does the ownership look like in this company, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I know you're throwing out 60% before, and I know for a fact that would be we would not be able to do that. We were talking about 25 to 30 earlier. That is negotiable. We're willing to go up to 40%.
So that would be 40%
Mhm.
with 2 board members.
We could do 40%. We could do 40% with 2 board members. 2 of your board members.
And what about the vesting? Because I can tell you,
Yeah.
my offer is 46% equity for 100 million.
Okay.
That means that puts our valuation well over 200 million.
Mhm.
46%, 2 board members, and a 5-year vesting schedule. So we could do. Would you like me to draw that out on the board, just so we're kind of looking at it?
Yeah. Let's look at that.
Or you could just put it down on paper if you want.
Sure.
Right, too. That's fine. So we have
Ooh, we have put paper on. Okay, so we were thinking 46%, 2 board seats, and 5-year vesting.
Okay.
So of these 3 things that we've got written down, where do you see the vesting schedule is your value to yourselves?
Mhm.
It is the value that you've built inside this company for yourselves. You are planning to be here long term, so technically the vesting schedule isn't necessarily a deal breaker for anyone
Mhm.
because it's really just when can you get out,
Mhm.
and it doesn't sound like any of you want to.
And I know that sounds. I'm just gonna butt in for a second because I know that sounds silly. Because yes, it is for us. But really, it's just the idea of us losing that control. That's what we're fearful of, and it's just a spiral of events that can happen after that. And so I think to us that just kind of indicates that this isn't our company anymore. And like you're saying, I mean, if you guys are coming in and depending on your equity, it isn't entirely our company, but majority still, this is ours.
So with 46% and 2 board seats, it is the majority.
Mm-hmm. And it still is. So then, but that idea of then, I feel like we are giving up a lot of decision-making power and control. Just the 5 years. I guess for me, I would be willing to do the 5 years if we could bring that 46 down to a 40.
So, and again, this is I want to be completely clear. This is no longer your company because we're going to be partner. So this
No
idea,
longer entirely ours.
of course. So
Yeah.
this idea of this being your baby, that piece is unfortunately now going to be shared with others.
No, we
And
do
I
realize the
under-
sharing part.
And I
Yes,
understand how
yes.
difficult that can be,
Mhm.
especially because you built this from the ground up and because of the experience you have in the field.
Mhm.
I understand how difficult it is to sort of let go of this thing that you've made.
I mean, that's why it sounds crazy. Because we're like, oh, we built this thing from the ground up. Why would we have to set a vesting schedule when this is our we have the biggest stake in this and
Because you need help,
history
and we're
wise.
here to help you. That's really it. Because we're here to help you because the better this company does, the better everyone does. There's nobody here we don't want to buy this tech because we don't know what to do with it. So without you, there is no firm. We're not buying this tech because we're an investment house. We wouldn't know what to do with it if we got it.
No, we do appreciate you acknowledging our efforts in that. So I thank you for that. I think, if we will do the 5 years. We can do the 2 board members. We got to bring that 46 down to a 40.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we do
So a 41. We can do a 41.
So why don't we do 45%? 5-year vesting schedule and 2 board seats. Actually, you know what? At that point, 41 works.
Can we do a 40? We would appreciate that.
41%.
works.
Okay, 41, 2 board members, 5-year vesting.
2 board members, 5-year vesting.
Sorry, I didn't bring the pen.
Let's go through. See, there's the 41 for the vesting, BC equity percentage, type of stock. We had convertible preferred.
Yes.
Dividends, we said no dividends.
No dividends.
VC right of refusal for anti-dilution rights. We had 2 board members for the VC appointed board members. We had 5 years for the vesting of founders' shares.
Correct.
We have the CEO replacement provision at conservative projections.
Yes.
And the no shop provision is included.
Yes.
I think that's it.
Okay.
I have to count this up.
While you were circling them, that's what I was doing, just to make sure. But, yeah. Wait, so once we count them up, can we share? We're deal done?
I think so.
I'm just gonna make sure my computer is huge. Am I free to take this off?
I think so.
Okay.